Okay, welcome and hello. Thank you for joining today's webinar, Get the Facts on Mass Transfer. My name is Jennifer Bento-Pinion. I am here at MEFA as Director of K-12 Services. And today, let me get my slide going here. We are joined by Arthur Esposito, who is the Director of Academic Policy and Student Success at the Massachusetts Department of Higher Education. And thank you, Art, for your time today and your expertise on this subject. We are so fortunate here in Massachusetts to have so many educational opportunities and options. And today, Art is going to walk through the specifics of the program within MassTransfer. So just a few logistics before we get started. The chat is disabled, so if you have a question, just type it in the QA, and we will address those at the end of the presentation. If you would like to see the words, use the live transcript feature. And if you need to leave the session, no worries. This webinar is being recorded, and we will send a follow-up email with the recording along with the slides. And also, as part of the MEFA Institute, this session is eligible for a professional development point, and the link to the evidence of learning form will also be included in that follow-up email. So just a little bit about MEFA. MEFA is a state authority created over 40 years ago with a public service mission to help families plan, save, and pay for college. And we continue to honor that mission with our offerings. Okay, so now I'm going to hand it over to Art. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Thanks for the intro. Thanks for honoring me with the expertise comment. I'm going to share my screen and jump right in. Like Jennifer said, my name's Arthur Esposito. I'm the Director of Academic Policy and Student Success. And the primary item in my portfolio right now is sort of managing and coordinating the MassTransfer platform. So let me go into a screen share. I want to do screen 2. And this isn't a MassTransfer page, but I really like contextualizing. Whenever having conversations with students about higher education, I like to, as early as possible, get them thinking about what this time in the next phase of their educational journey, what kind of impact that can have on the trajectory of their professional life. I think that the title "Education Pays" is a really cool one for this particular site. This is a Bureau of Labor Statistics site, so it's a .gov. This is the agency that the monthly jobs report that comes out that the federal government is always talking about. It comes from this organization, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So these data are pretty accurate and they're meaningful to students because it kind of contextualizes what the world of work means and how increased levels of academic attainment can greatly impact the trajectory of their life. And at the Department of Higher Ed, our equity agenda, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with it, but one of the key components in it is trying to positively affect students and families' upward mobility. And I don't get that heady with students when I talk with them about it, but something that as education professionals we can kind of focus in on. If you look at the difference between the earning potential of workers with a high school diploma versus an associate's degree, you see a relatively significant jump in income. But if you look at the difference between the bachelor's degree attainment and the associate degree attainment, it's significantly larger. I think that the data that I read last were that there is a 17% increase in earning potential between a high school diploma holder and an associate degree holder, but the difference when you jump from associate degree to bachelor's degree is somewhere in the area of like 37%. So in terms of amassing generational wealth, and in terms of really setting someone on a trajectory to increase their upward mobility, we really want to be talking with students about jumping from the associate degree level to the bachelor's degree level, and even higher, as we're talking about master's degrees and doctoral degrees. So anyway, this is a great site that I use to contextualize it for students. It's tricky to get. My previous career, before I joined the Department of Higher Ed, I was a director of academic advising, and I was in that profession for about 2 decades. And the hardest thing to do, I found, was to engage students in this kind of conversation. But it's also one of the most important things that we do when a student starts at the post-secondary level. We need to get them to start thinking about this, because we need them to start thinking about academic planning. And that's a decent enough segue to jump to the MassTransfer site. MassTransfer is the program. It's a policy of the Department of the Board of Higher Ed, and the Department of Higher Ed are the executors, if you will, of board policy. MassTransfer is the program that is entirely concerned with what we refer to as vertical transfer. So the transfer from community college to baccalaureate level. There are lots of things to sort of understand about MassTransfer, and it can get kind of tricky, but I like to start on our page, not in a self-serving way, but because it really lays out the benefits of each program within the MassTransfer policy. So I'll usually jump into the About MassTransfer, the landing page, and there are a lot of words here about the meaning of MassTransfer. But there are functionally 3 levels of benefit for a community college student executing a vertical transfer to the baccalaureate level. The first one being a general education foundation, and this one's pretty self-explanatory. The Gen Ed Foundation is a collection of courses. It's about 34 credits. Let me double check my math. Yeah, I think it's about 34 credits, and it's a collection of those courses that broadly fall into general education or distribution courses at the baccalaureate level. Behavioral social science, humanities, fine arts, natural science, Comp 1, Comp 2. These are the subjects that fall into general education at most institutions in the country, and certainly all of the institutions within the Massachusetts public higher education system. So back to the levels of benefit. General Education Foundation, it's pretty straightforward. If a student transfers from a community college to a baccalaureate institution prior to earning their associate degree, but after having completed all of the courses required for the Gen Ed Foundation, on average, an estimated savings would be about 11%. And the theory here being they're spending a year at a community college where they're paying less for tuition, where they're paying fewer fees, and that equates to this level of savings. All of the courses in the General Education Foundation are previously articulated, and that means that the accepting institution they'll do 2 things. So first of all, they'll accept the block of courses as satisfactory of the General Education Foundation or distribution courses at their own institution. So they'll mark a student's transcript that they've completed their general education requirement for graduation. And then they'll go in and they'll do a course for course evaluation of the student's transcript, and all the courses within the General Education Foundation are previously articulated, so the receiving institution knows what Comp 101 means at each of the community colleges, and it's accepted as their English Composition 101. So this is the entry level MassTransfer benefit. Then when a student finishes in situations when the student has finished their associate degree, we can get them onto an A to B pathway or associate to bachelor's pathway. I'll talk a little bit more about the pathways in a second, but the savings increases obviously because they're spending another year at the community college. So it's another year's worth of tuition and fee savings. A larger number of credits is going to be guaranteed as transfer. So the accepting institution will agree to accept a minimum of 60 credits. They get the general education waiver, and depending upon the student's GPA at time of transfer, if they've got a 2.0, they're guaranteed a full transfer of the minimum 60 credits. They will pay no application fee. They don't have to write an essay. They don't have to get letters of recommendation. That's the minimum A to B benefit. Then if a 2.5 or higher, admission is guaranteed unless they're going for something like in the performing arts or the fine arts, where they need to submit a portfolio. If they're headed towards an impacted major and there's simply no room, they'll be accepted as a general studies student, and the receiving institution will work out and communicate with the student what it means to ultimately join the major. And then the highest level of A to B transfer with the associate degree, if they've got a 3.0 or higher, they immediately become eligible for the MassTransfer tuition credit. So they get all this stuff, and they can get a tuition credit or waiver at the state university level. It's a waiver, and at the University of Massachusetts campuses, it's called a credit. And basically that waives 100% of their tuition. The fees aren't waived, but the tuition is waived when they transfer with a 3.0 or higher on an A to B pathway. There are two different kinds of pathways. There's a mapped pathway and a linked pathway. Functionally, the only difference between these two pathways is that we can create a map showing the student how their courses transfer and into what category for the mapped pathways. For the linked pathways, these are institution to institution agreements. They don't feature a map, and there are a couple of different sorts of articulation specifics between the institutions. And then the final level of vertical transfer benefit, the Commonwealth commitment. This one is where they're saving some pretty significant dollars because of some tuition and fee understandings. Basically, the benefits are you get everything from the Gen Ed Foundation and the A to B level, but you also become available for a semester to semester discount of 10%. So at the community college, so when a student joins the Commonwealth Commitment Program, within the first semester of study at the community college, they decide their major, they pick a target institution. They're allowed to have a couple of alternates as well, but they sign a form and they agree to enroll full-time throughout their academic career. They commit to completing their associate degree in 5 semesters, so 2.5 years, and they agree to maintaining a 3.0 GPA. If they do all of those things at the community college level, they're going to get a 10% rebate every semester that their GPA is above 3.0. They're going to lock in the tuition and fee rate to the semester they started the community college. They start the community college in 2024. When they transfer to the baccalaureate institution in 2026, they're still paying the 2024 rate. And then when they get to the baccalaureate institution, the 10% continues, but it's not 10% of tuition, it's 10% of the fees. So they get the tuition waiver. So they're getting a 100% discount on tuition, but the institutional fees, the mandatory fees that go along with the tuition, are usually larger than the tuition fee. But they get a 10% rebate on those as long as they stay in compliance. They're enrolled full-time. They're earning a 3.0 GPA. That's a pretty significant benefit when they get to the baccalaureate institution, and it's really nothing to sneeze at when they're at the community college level as well. So those are the 3 most significant vertical transfer programs that we manage. There's also something called reverse transfer. This is a situation in which when the student is say the student transferred prior to having earned their associate degree, they can use the courses that they're completing at the baccalaureate level. They can send them back to the community college and be retroactively awarded the associate degree. That's beneficial for students, depending upon where in the world of work they're employed. Some employers give them additional salary considerations and salary bumps every time they attain a new level of education. So this can be beneficial in that way. It's pretty straightforward. We've got an application on our site, and the student has to do very little work. They just let their baccalaureate institution know they want to do reverse transfer. The back institution connects with the community college, and they start sending transcripts back and forth. And the community college just proactively awards the transfer or the associate degree. And the final thing to point out is the non-mass transfer option. So mass transfer is an agreement between the 15 public community colleges and the 14 public state universities and UMass campuses for a directory of the institutions that are included in this program. You can come here, and it's all of the community colleges, all of the state universities, and our special mission institutions, the Mass Art, MCLA, and Mass Maritime. These three kind of function a little bit differently from the state universities and the UMass campuses, and of course all four of the UMass campuses. I say that because those are just the publics. The private institutions also have a number of, let me state that a different way. There are a number of private institutions that participate in the Mass Guarantee program. These are the private institutions entering into individual agreements with the community colleges. It mirrors mass transfer in the connection between the institutions. The same policies may or may not be in play. That's between the institutions that participate in the Mass Guarantee. There's a whole lot of information. Let's jump to a new link. This is also one of our pages. We built it for the publics and the privates, and it looks a lot like our search page. I'll show it to you in a second, but you can pick the community college. You can pick, no, that's ours. Let me get over here. Reverse transfer. Nope. Where did I lost my my mass transfer. Anyway, we'll get to the mass guarantee in a sec. It's up here. I just yeah, other transfer agreements to privates. Here is the mass guarantee. This is a search program where you can, the number of private institutions that participate is it's significantly large, and you can do a search here to identify which private the student wants to go to. Again, the benefits are between the receiving institution and the sending community college. They mirror mass transfer benefits, but they're not exactly the same. So we'll go back down. Those were the benefits. We've got the General Education Foundation, we've got A to B, and we've got Commonwealth Commitment. Up in this menu here, it starts to jump into those three pathways and get some specifics going on. As far as the tools are concerned, this is also an interesting page for students. Compare the mass transfer savings. You can help a student identify the community college that they're going to start at, and identify the state university, UMass campus they want to finish their degree, and you can compare savings. So on average, we've got the specific savings for the entire degree. This is what a non-mass transfer cost would be considered: 15 a year, 60 total. If you look at this is broken down at the community college level, so it's broken down for 2 years. If you look at the Mass Transfer Gen Ed Foundation specifically, the student is saving about $7,000 if they do the Gen Ed Foundation. They spend 1 year at Cape Cod, they transfer with their Gen Ed Foundation complete. It's a 13% savings. And then annually, there's the amount down there. MassTransfer over the 2 years that they're at the community college, the 2 years they spend at the community college is going to cost them 42 versus the 60K that they would have spent for 2 years at the bachelor's program, savings of 30%. And then with the ComCom, they're only spending about 35.5, so a savings of about 15K. Oh no, that's almost, yeah, about 15K. 42% savings. And this again is over the 2 years that they spend at the community college. This is what they pay versus paying a full 60 for 2 years at the bachelor's institution. And then really quickly kind of breaking down the other things. Gen Ed Foundation, it helps the student identify what these courses mean at their starting institution. Cape Cod Community College, they're going to plug in this many credits in these categories, and the categories are broken down, showing them all the courses at 4Cs that satisfy those distributions. The MassTransfer pathways specifically help them pick the program. So you go into program search, and you follow the same sort of rubric. Choose the community college. We're starting at 4Cs. We're transferring to Bridgewater, and we think that we're going to be political science majors. These are the pathways that are mapped depending upon the major you start in. If you're a political science major at Cape Cod, you can take these 4 courses at 4Cs. They'll be accepted as these 4 courses at Bridgewater State, and then the General Education Foundation is accepted as a block. This is a specific map, and again, you can go from any community college to any state university Mass campus. Pretty effective, pretty efficient website. I think that's it. I'm going to stop my share now, and we can start talking about questions.
Okay, if anyone has questions, put them in the chat, please. And we can look at those.
Or maybe it's good enough that maybe I've gotten so good at the presentation that there are no questions. I guess
Right.
everyone would be. I doubt that, but
actually put them in. Did I say QA? I think I may have said chat. Put them in the QA, please. But yes, Art may have been so thorough that there might not be any questions. And that's okay.
Which would be surprising, but
but
it's been known to happen.
I one. Do you recommend that students start looking at these programs in high school?
Yes. There's a link on our page that talks about planning for transfer, and the indication on the page is that the students start thinking 3 to 4 semesters prior to executing the transfer. They want to start thinking about it and planning. And if you think about an associate degree, if they're attending full time and taking advantages of summer sessions, they are completing that degree in 4 semesters. So the time to start thinking about it is right when they start at the community college. It's a good idea to start thinking about it in high school, because typically when students start at a community college, there are about 85 other questions a day that are coming into their head, and it's all about acclimating to the institution, transitioning to the learning challenges that the difference between high school level learning and post-secondary pose. So there's very little bandwidth for them to think about what they want to major in, and whether or not they want to finish their associate and go on to a baccalaureate degree, or whether they're thinking, I'm going to finish my associate degree and jump right out into the world of work because I want to start earning, or I need to start earning sooner, and then pursue higher levels of education later. They don't always have the bandwidth to think about that early in their community college career. So the larger number of conversations that we can have with high school students about the transitions that they're facing when they jump to that post-secondary level, the earlier the better. So yeah, they should definitely start thinking about this in high school. In fact, I went just a week or so ago, I went out to Randolph High, and I met with their junior class. The entire junior class was in the auditorium, and we started talking about these things because I think it's important that higher education can have a significant impact on the student's life after college, but that doesn't just happen. They have to plan for it. Back when I was an academic advisor, one of my favorite statistics was that 50% of the American workforce works in the field for which they went to college, and 50% don't. And you can make a lot of assumptions about the 50% that do not work in their chosen field. But there's one universal about those who are working in that field, is that they made the decision to major in it, and they executed a plan to go out and work in that field. They made a plan, and starting that plan early and understanding how higher ed can impact your career. Those are important conversations to have, and they can't start soon enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Art. So we have a couple questions that came in.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So what are the recommendations for students who are interested in specific majors such as nursing?
The recommendation for students who are interested in particular majors is to start talking with institutional advisors and institutional admissions counselors. The reason for that is that the receiving institution at whatever level, at the associate level or the baccalaureate level, they're going to be the ones with all the answers. Theirs are the policies that students have to follow to get admitted. Theirs are the policies and requirements that students are going to have to follow to earn a degree. So I'd use programs like Naviance. I'd use programs like the MEFA tool for planning your education to get to, first of all, seek and find the institutions that have programs in those fields, and do the heavy lifting of comparing the programs, and as tedious as it is, helping your students read the program requirements, and if you can, have them read course descriptions. When I was an advisor on declared exploratory students, I'd sit there and I'd go through the catalog with them, and I'd have them read course descriptions, and I call it the smell test. If they can't read a course description without thinking, they're not gonna last a semester in that course. They're not gonna have a good time through the 4 years of educating themselves in that field, and it's not gonna be a good fit for them. It's not gonna be a good match for them. So I'd get the student into the educational research process as soon as possible, just helping them think about what it means to be that. There were trends in higher education, and we used to call it the Hollywood effect. Back when the CSI shows were a very big deal in the early aughts, every student that came to college wanted to be a forensic science major because they loved CSI. And they didn't realize that what forensic science means in college is that you're spending time in a laboratory. You're the person in the lab coat at a bench actually doing science. You're not out in the field investigating the crime. So helping students dig into that research process is significantly important. That's the first recommendation I would make.
Yeah, that's great. And there are so many great tools that focus on that labor market information that students can access. So yeah, that's great. All right, here's the next question. This one might be a little more specific to the website. So the question is, so I heard that there are some community college Comp 101 courses that in order to transfer both Comp 101 and 102 needs to be taken to count for a Gen Ed Foundation Core course. Is this something that folks can look at on the website?
Yes. There are a number of courses that, let me go back into screen share actually. There are a number of courses that that will only transfer as, like combo courses, we call them. The best place to look at that would be to look up course equivalencies. And again, it's the same story. You can either start at the community college or you can start with the receiving institution. Let's see if we can find one of those. We're gonna, who do I know has a number of them? Let me, UMass Dartmouth, and it doesn't happen in so much as in the Comp 101, 102 reality, but at UMass Dartmouth, they have a number of, their accounting courses are notorious for this. So you'll see something like this, ACC 101, 102, Basic Accounting and Basic Accounting 2. And then what that's going to be received as, I got to minimize my chat screen because it's getting in the way. What that's going to be received as is going to be Principles of Accounting 1. They'll be awarded all 6 credits because they did 2 courses, but what it's going to break down to is it's going to be, they'll get 3 credits for Principle of Accounting 1, and those other 3 credits will either be general electives or business specific electives, depending upon the major that they're going into. I did the business search primarily because it's somewhat rare for that to happen with Comp 1 and Comp 2. And the reason for that is that what we're seeing a great deal more of with Comp 1 and specifically Comp 2 is that very few institutions, well, fewer and fewer institutions are starting to receive credit for Comp 2. And we're seeing that with AP as well. The two AP courses, and I forget the distinction, but the second one very rarely transfers in as College Comp 2 because if y'all think back to your grad school days, remember there was a period of time, usually early in your process, where you had to take the research procedures course, and the research procedures was basically letting you know that's how your institution wants you writing your thesis. Well, Comp 2 is having that effect at the baccalaureate level, in that it's really a composition class. It's not about literature. It's not necessarily about analyzing and writing about literature. It's literally about writing the college level research paper. So a lot of baccalaureate institutions are becoming very focused on that Comp 2 as being how to write research at UMass Dartmouth or UMass Boston or Bridgewater State. And fewer institutions are accepting a freestanding Comp 2 in transfer unless it's really about research procedures and citing your sources and style guides and basically post-secondary level research. There are, as we spin through, there are very few combo courses. If we go back to general ENL and we don't focus in on one particular course, we're not seeing a lot of slash courses here. It's pretty much 101 comes as 101 and 102 comes as 102. I hope that answered the question.
Yes, and important to note that all of this is on the website. So it's all.
Yeah, this is a really cool tool. We've got about 14,000 courses in our database, and you can do specifically one institution at any community college. You can zero in. I don't think you can do any to any. I think that you've got to pick at least one here. You can get even more granular and go 1-to-1 and say I'm only focused on the Cape Cod courses. And again, you see direct previously agreed to articulations. It's a pretty useful tool.
Yeah.
I glassed right over it, but it's in here in the tools. You can compare the savings. You can also do the course equivalency lookup. Mm-hmm. This is more general, the elective credit kind of conversation. I won't go down that road because it's pretty self-explanatory.
So that leads us nicely into the next question of what if a student doesn't know what they want to study?
Yeah, that's a tricky one.
Yeah,
and that's we don't have a tool for that on the MassTransfer page, and this is where I go back to wearing the college advising hat. And when I started my career, I was specifically focused on educating unclear exploratory students. You've got to get them into that research process. I know that Jennifer and I talked about the MEFA tool for that. There's Naviance. One of my favorite institutional sites. Let me get back in my screen share. Let me do I want to do OOH.
Yeah, there's so many
The
great tools
occupational
for
outlook
that early
handbook.
exploration, right? To start, like,
Yeah.
what do you like to do? What are your interests? What are your skills? What are you passionate about? And try to tie those into a
Yeah, this is another Bureau of Labor Statistics site, the Occupational Outlook Handbook, and you can search the handbook and say, I really like going to my vet's office, and I like veterinary medicine. I'm typing like a monkey. But you can plug in any career. Students really like animals, so they think they want to be a vet. Um, the OOH has a page for that, and this page will give you a summary of everything you need to know. This tab will talk about what a vet does on a day-to-day basis, talks about the work environment, talks about how to become one. This one's really important because it tells you the level of educational attainment you've got to look at, and it'll talk about specific licensure. There's really an absurd amount of information on pages like the OOH. Another good one is it's escaping me, but
ONET. ONET has a good one. Just
ONET, that's the one. ONET's a really good page as well. ONET's really cool because it'll do again, I'm typing like a monkey. ONET's really interesting because if we do the same thing, oh, someone already picked electrician for me. Wait, oh, no, it's blank. Let's do the vet again, right? Veterinarians, the details, where is it? Occupational requirements, where are the related fields? ONET does a related fields one. And it will launch you into, other career fields. And you can play that game forever, go back down to related, and you can look at what it means to be a cardiologist. And again, there's equal amounts of absurd information, even digging into state by state, how much, you could earn and what your unemployment percentage is like. So these are really cool tools, but what it really all boils down to is getting the student into the intellectual game of identifying what it is they want to do. A lot of people will talk about what do with major in. A lot of people will talk about pages like get me here. What can I do with a major in X? I never liked this approach because it's too prescriptive. It's too prescriptive in general majors. I mean, what can you do with a major in accounting? Well, you become an accountant. But if a student has interest in what we call academic majors, you can do more than just go to work as a museum docent with a humanities-based major. English is my favorite one. Check this one out. What happens when you say, what can I do with a major in English? Well, there are like 8,500 things you could do with an English major. And it's way more than just these things. I don't like them because they're too prescriptive. And I think that prescribing a career for a student can be a little bit tricky. And I get that high school students are not in a position where they're ready to do deep intellectual research about what they're going to do for the rest of their life. But telling them what they can do at that point can sometimes cause larger problems than encouraging them to do some research and do some thinking about it can cause.
Yeah, that research.
It's tricky. It's very, very tricky. And and 20 years ago, I answered this question differently than I answer it now. I've now got a daughter who is graduating from high school in 2 weeks, and having gone through this process with her, it's been a real eye opener. From 20 years ago, I didn't have kids, so it's tricky, and there are pros and cons of each approach. I really advocate for helping a student think about what it means to be that thing. Because in a lot of cases, they'll go to school and they'll go to college thinking, well, all of my family and friends think that I'm a great listener, so they think that I should become a psychologist. And all of their friends and family love them quite a lot and made that recommendation with their best interest in mind, but they didn't talk about what it means to, go through the baccalaureate program and study something as heady as psychology. And then if they think they're going to be a psychiatrist, then they've got to do, 4 years of med school because they've got to do the med school thing to get that psychiatry degree. And what's the difference between psychiatry and psychology? And what's the difference between psychology and social work? And social work is another very viable way to get into that counseling profession. So there are a lot of things that get very, very weedy very, very quickly that aren't taken into consideration by websites like What Can I Do with a Major in X?
Sure. Yeah. No, that's great. Thank you for that. That was a great response to that question. Okay, we have a couple more. If a student begins in the A to MAP pathway, but later chooses a major, are they able to seamlessly transfer to the A to B linked program?
It depends on the major. It depends on the receiving institution. The funny thing about all of this is that the A to B mapped pathways, the A to B linked pathways, these are all kind of universal constructs, and they're things that the department has developed and created to help students start thinking about it. These are just guides, though, and these are pages that students shouldn't be thinking of as DIY tools. The best conversations and the best answers to all these questions are going to be received from institutional academic advisors. If a student starts on one pathway and thinks they want to go to a different pathway, they start out on a mapped pathway, and the major that they want is only a linked pathway. That's fine. They'll be able to make the switch as long as they're talking with their current institutional advisor, and their advisors help them connect with the receiving institution. The pathways, they look a little bit different, and they don't fall into the four corners of the maps that we've created, but all the work that I've done with our baccalaureate institutions and our community colleges, I can say for certain that the receiving institution is always very focused on helping the student make a thoughtful and successful transition from community college to baccalaureate institution.
So that's why it's so important to get hooked up with your advisor.
So important to get hooked up with an academic advisor. Academic advisors, I used to joke about it when I was on campus. I call them the great regulators of funkiness. Anytime anything gets weird, obviously, if a student is having a problem in a class, they want to talk with the instructor. Outside of class, though, 101 things can go wrong in the course of a week. And if they don't know who to ask, they should have a relationship with their academic advisor or the advising office, because those folks know who to ask if they're not the ones to ask themselves.
Yeah. So educators, make sure you're promoting that with your students. All right, one more question, Art. How does dual enrollment or early college work with these programs?
Yeah, that's a very good question. One of the stipulations of all the early college programs is that the courses that they're teaching in early college, which is just a variation on dual enrollment, really. All the early college courses that go into the curricula for at the high schools need to be courses that are in the MassTransfer database. And that works out pretty well, because most of the courses that a student does in dual enrollment, they're going to fall into that general education category. If we go back to a course search and we look at this, most of the courses that are offered in dual enrollment are going to be 101, maybe 200 level courses. If we go down, obviously Comp 1 and Comp 2, these are no-brainers. Most students will do a Comp 1 or Comp 2 in dual enrollment. A lot of math courses are offered in dual enrollment early college. Many of the sciences, biology, chemistry is in here, physics is in here. If you think about, the typical AP topics, the required topics of the the statewide admissions policies. They're all in here, and generally speaking, these 102 level course, 100, 200 level courses are in the database. They're pretty universal transfers. They're very portable courses. Intro to anthropology is pretty much intro to anthropology, at any community college and at any receiving institution. These things don't change. American History 1, European History, 2. These courses might have different names, but the content doesn't change. Medieval European history has not changed, and it doesn't change depending upon institutions. So they're very portable courses, and in 9 cases out of 10, they're going to be within the MassTransfer database. And the other thing to remember is that these are dual enrollment courses, and that means that the student is dually enrolled at the high school and the community college. So the community college is going to be, and some of you have relationships with baccalaureate institutions in the dual enrollment relationship. They're college level courses that are being taught at high school, so they're going to fit into that college's catalog. And if it's a state institution, those courses are going to reside in here 9 cases out of 10.
That's great. Another good reason to be dual enrolled, right?
Yeah, right. And it's really cool to give the students the peek behind the curtain at college level learning as well, because the biggest transition that they face, I mean, they're facing huge transitions in every way, shape, or form, but the first thing that a student disconnects from it at the college level is the classroom. They can be the most engaged, they could be a student leader, they could be president of the college's student senate, but if they're not making a 2.0, they're at a certain point, they're going to be asked to stop attending. So they could be as engaged and as engaged in the community and the most active student in student life. But if their academics are, if they haven't made the transition to college level learning, they're going to struggle. Dual enrollment, AP courses, giving them a peek behind the curtain at how courses are taught at the college level, that's intensely, it's almost more important than the grade that they earn, in my opinion.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, I'm going to share my screen now. Let's see, to wrap us up. Let's see. All right, so I want to thank Art for his time, of course, today. It's amazing, amazing presentation. Educators, certainly share this information with your students and your families so they can explore further and possibly take advantage of one of these amazing programs. And if you have questions that pop up after we wrap this up, Art is open to you contacting him directly. We'll be sharing the slides, so you'll have his contact information. And then you can always take advantage of MEFA's guidance. If you haven't already, you can sign up for our MEFA emails. We have so many avenues to seek out. We have an amazing podcast, blog posts. We do one-on-one appointments with students and families. You can call our hotline, our Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We answer calls all day about the U Plan and the U Fund and FAFSA. And also, we have an extensive library of recorded webinars. Take advantage of the MEFA Institute offerings. And then you can always follow us on social. We are active on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. And yes, and we also answer questions through our social channels. So we thank you for joining us this morning on this nice, bright, sunny day. And this is the MEFA information. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us or to Art, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for joining today. And thank you, Art.
Thanks for having me.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.